as we go through this State of the City address, we start with our amazing volunteers. I'm not going to break this out, but we've listed the number of hours in the fire department, the police department, parks and recreation, the senior center, amphitheater, and the arts guild that so many of you are involved in, and so many of you spend literally hundreds of hours volunteering for us each year. But the total hours that were donated by volunteers this year were almost 180,000 hours. We do a cost estimates giving a certain amount per hour that easily probably doesn't exceed what the real cost is to those who volunteer, but a reasonable amount. That saves the city over $2 million. So that's a huge impact on our community. It's what makes, and I say this every year, what makes this community work are people like you that are willing to give their time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears for that matter. We still maintain our AA+ bond rating, which is the highest we can for a city our size. Sandy has the lowest property taxes in Salt Lake County, and some of the lowest in the state. Each year we try to let our residents know that. Each year the response on our surveys are lower taxes, we pay too much. And what we'd like to say to them is, people lump your taxes all together. I'm going to, till the day I die, I'm going to keep trying to get this message across. There's a municipal tax that you pay to Sandy City, and then there's other people, the school district, the county, special districts and all, but we are the lowest in the Salt Lake County and some of the lowest in the state. We have had no property tax increase for 26 years. That was the good news. We are not submitting a budget that will have a property tax increase in it this year either. But the day may come, so don't get mad at me. Our unemployment rate for the city is 4.7%, which is phenomenal when you consider what the national average of 7.8% is and the state average of 5.2%. So all of you out there, we're happy to see you employed, and those of you that are unemployed or retired, and we still want you to spend your money. Our population is just a little under 88,000. It's been consistent at that number for the last two censuses, 2000, 2010. It is important that we grow population. The way the sales tax and road taxes are distributed, part of it is based on population. So we are currently shipping money outside of Sandy to other cities that are growing. Now there's good reasons for us to be where we are, mainly because our population is stabilized and our kids have grown up and moved away. I'm seeing it in my neighborhood, I hope you see it in yours, that young families are coming back in, babies are being born, and so we will always be that family-oriented community that we set out to be and continue to push for. But we need more population and we need a vibrant community, and therefore we wish to have more densities of housing along in the civic area down here, and that's part of our new master plan. Over the last year, the Community Development Department has adopted a 30-year master plan for our civic corridor. Now, many of you have seen this plan, not all of you have, but we're talking about the area from 90th South to 106th South, from the freeway over to the light rail tracks. And what we're talking about there is about 850 acres of developed and redeveloped land that will happen over the next 30 years. No city in this state has been ambitious enough to try a 30-year plan. If you had asked me 10 or 15 years ago if it's possible, I'd have said no. But because of new tools that exist with both the federal government, the state of Utah, and the University of Utah, as well as Envision Utah, and our own experience that we've had now for 20, 25 years in the city, we think we can get a pretty good picture of what we can be and what we should be after in the future. We're not trying to be Salt Lake City. We're not trying to be anybody else. We just want to be the finest suburban community that we can be for our residents and have long-term sustainability with the income needs that the city has, so we don't have to raise property taxes. And we're able to provide a high quality of services that we continually have over the past. There's a housing element in that we'll talk about in the future. There's a Trails Master Plan. We've spent quite a bit of time with the City Council, our Trails Committee and such, in developing a new Trails Plan for the city, which calls for over 100 miles of trails in the city. And it's difficult to retrofit a city in that case, but we'll find ways to do that. And on our Dan Jones surveys for the last 4 or 5 years, it has been the #1 request from our residents to develop more trails throughout the community. In economic development, the project called 114, is down at 114 South where Shields is continuing to develop. Shields is our new 220,000 square foot retail center. I don't want to describe it as a sporting goods store because it's a lot more than that. I have not been on the Ferris wheel yet. There is a weight limit. I think I'm under it. But no one else can sit with me. But if you haven't had the experience, it's worthwhile taking your family in, your grandchildren, just to have fun. We have a partnership with the Canyon School District that was implemented with the help of Tracy Goodell, and we're working with the district to design some new things with their property at Mount Jordan Middle School. And hopefully something that will be special for the school district, for the students, and for all of our residents. Shields created 450 new jobs for the community. We have another user who leased out all the rest of the workers' comp building. That added another 250 jobs, and we continue to look for more job opportunities to come to our community for our residents. We do have more restaurants coming. Buffalo Wild Wings I'm not excited about, but some people will. I'm looking for something real upscale. We have a realtor here that will help us. And anyway, Longhorn Steakhouse is looking. There's a number of other restaurants, and what is my mantra? You can never have too many restaurants. And it's interesting, in our latest Dan Jones poll, that's something that people comment on. They like the fact that we have more restaurants. The Civic Area Master Plan, and working with the group DDRM out of California, has been very successful in working with us to develop a real master plan and a transit-oriented development. I'm not sure if everyone understands what that is, but we have now, with the opening of the station at 114 South, 4 transit stops in the city, and just recently in December, the commuter rail stop opened just across the freeway from us in South Jordan. We're working with UTA and with South Jordan and Salt Lake County to try to work through some circulator systems that we can both work on and get people moving throughout this area now and in the future. We're also working on improvements to some of the roads in Sandy, our Dan Jones survey. Each year we ask, what do you like about what's happened in the last year to 5 years? Roads were the #1 thing that people liked that they saw. Now, in prior years, they were angry because they were under construction. But we've experienced this before. Once they're open, people prefer that than under construction. But we do have plans to take Monroe Street that runs just to the west side of City Hall and move that further south to open up property that we own just south of City Hall. We recently purchased 11.5 acres next to City Hall to the west, and we are in discussions with Hale Theater for Hale Theater to relocate to that site sometime in the future. And as I say, we're still in discussions. So we'll see how that works out. We are in the process of developing a trail system through this area, and the opportunity for us to what we call a transit-oriented development that will allow people to live here, to work here, to play here, and not everyone has to have a car. The impact of the sale of Southtown Mall, which is up for sale, is going to be very significant to our future. We did meet with a gentleman last week who is been given the award of Southtown Mall in his bid, and he has great ideas and things that we've needed for a number of years. The current owner of the mall, this was their 18th mall when they bought it. It's now one of 80 malls. It's just not a major mall to them anymore. So we need the investment. And this developer out of Colorado is willing to do it. We've seen some of his projects, Byron and I and Mike Cool. Very impressed. He believes in our plan for the future, and so we're very excited about that. Obviously, more office buildings that we need for future job opportunities. And again, transportation systems. We are currently working with the state of Utah, UTA, Salt Lake County, and others, Los Escondido Regional Council, Salt Lake City, to figure out how are we going to move people up and down the canyons in the future. As you well know, for those of you that ski, as I've said, I don't put this body on skis for rollers of any kind. We've got to be able to figure out how to move people up and down the canyon. It's gridlocked today, and there's lots more opportunity. And for the environmental concerns that moving that much traffic up and down, we need studies to tell us what we can and can't do. So we're working with the legislature right now and working with the cities and the counties to come up with funding and get that process started for an environmental impact study. Jordan Commons added 2 new theaters this year and a major meeting facilities. It's great. They have a VIP auditorium and a luxury lounge. And so, we're happy to have 20 movie theaters at Jordan Commons today. Thank you for not asking about the old Fred Meyer. No one mentioned that tonight or in the last couple of weeks. But we have, obviously, Desert Industries has bought the property. They are developing a new DI with some social services to be held there. And their plan is to surplus excess property that they purchased for future development. We have a couple other spots in the city, don't ask me about, but they're working on it. Somebody's working on it. Let's talk about the fire department. We are the only fire department in Salt Lake Valley to maintain paramedics at every station. We have a 5-minute response time, which is the highest in the county. And some of the things that the fire department accomplished this year are we trained 120 citizens in our community emergency response teams. We had 456 citizens take the CPR and advanced life support. We gave out 1,000 flu vaccinations, and we provide free smoke detectors for anyone who would ask, and we'll replace the batteries. So, Chief, where are you? I bought a bunch of new smoke detectors. They've been in the drawer for 4 years. I think the batteries are dead too. I think one of the things I was most impressed with is under the Chief's leadership, we have created a volunteer program again in the city. I'm sure some of you might remember the old volunteer plan. But today we have 30 firefighters that are volunteers and 20 medical reserves to supplement our full-time crews. In fact, that's the list we use to hire firemen and paramedics. We have a new fire truck on order that will be here next month. And you'll see me riding around town, honking the horn, things like that. And I think one of the things I was impressed with, I didn't realize, is the fire department is starting a Firefighters Citizens Academy. So for those of you who have been through the police academy, now you have a Citizens Firefighting Academy. And I think that'll teach you a lot about what our people do. We have automatic electronic defibrillators in all our police cars that are out on the street all day. So for those of you and I that worry about what happens in my first heart attack, I want somebody close all day. In our Parks Department, we have completed a new section of the Jordan River Trail, and we will complete another section this summer that will connect the Jordan River Parkway through our community. We have had a lot of volunteers and help working with Brandon Canyon Trail. If you're not familiar with that, it's over about 117th south between 114th and 117th. And we'll have a new trail built through there. The Bonneville Shoreline Trail design is complete. We're ready to get started on the next phases of that. And then Years ago, when we were all interested in developing and seeing Dippletown Park become a real asset for the community, we were worried about how we move people through there. So when 7th East was widened, we got some federal funds, and Salt Lake County matched some funds, and we were able to put a bridge across there, so you don't have to climb out of the park and down again. And then when we redid 13th East this last year or two, we have a tunnel under there. You can ride a horse. I wouldn't, but you can. There are people that do that. And so that opened that up. And then we had an opportunity this past year to build a tunnel under the light rail tracks as they're built south into Dolan. And we also, with the approval of the City Council, did that. And in partnership with Salt Lake County, we're partnering on that. And we built, there's a tunnel there. We've covered it back up until we're ready to open it up and use it, but it is there. Our goal ultimately is to connect the Bonneville Shoreline Trail to Jordan River Parkway. You can ride, bike, hike, run, whatever, ride a horse. I can't remember who, every year somebody comes to me, or people come to me throughout the year and say, what are you going to do about that ugly 90 South off-ramp? And it's hard to get the state, I'm going to ask my state legislator to come up and fund you. But actually, we are planning this year to do xeriscaping on the 2 off-ramps at 90th South to have some kind of impact on the improvements. In Parks and in the recreation part of this, we have new races that we're asking people if they're interested in, and we've sponsored. I'm sure many of you were part of the Zombie Run. Okay, the Color Run. The Color Run is when they throw colors at you as you run by. I wasn't in town for that, thank you. And then we are going to be sponsoring a half marathon from Snowbird to Sandy to Alta Canyon, and a full marathon in 2014, and eventually also a triathlon event. For those of you that are golfers or not, the golf course is doing well. It hasn't improved my game in 10 years, but it's still there. I found out if you don't keep score, it's fun to play. We have been in the national rankings. We are declared the safest city in Salt Lake Valley. We are the 3rd safest city in the state of Utah. All of our numbers are down over the last 10 years, and again, I appreciate the police department and the good job they do, the volunteers in service in the police department that help us, but most of all, it's our residents, it's our people who make it such a safe place to live. We have helped 1,084 children at risk in our community since 2009, with 1,314 volunteers hours that assist these young children that go through domestic violence or any kind of an impact that the families may be having. It's a very important program to us. I won't go over a lot with public utilities, Shane, but I am very proud of this fact. No homes were flooded from stormwater in Sandy this past year. We've had years where hundreds were done, but because of our storm drain systems that we've been building for the last 15 years, that's a real proud thing for me. Public Works, we've had an overlay from 110th South to 123rd South on 13th. There's the 98th South is going as an overlay from 7th to 10th. Light rail station is mentioned at 114th. Pedestrian crossings that we are installing with UTA along the light rail trail at 106th South and 114th South. So hopefully you won't get hurt crossing the road in that. So that will be open when the line opens. And then of course the front runner station across the freeway at 106th. We have plans to improve the intersection at 90th South and 7th West, and also, as I mentioned, the extension of Monroe Street to continue to open up our area down at the mall. We completed our 14th year at the amphitheater. It's hard to believe, it's been 14 years. Byron and I love and look forward to that every year, and they're crushed when it ends. I was out of town for Libby Newton-John. But I was on a cruise with my wife, I think. But there were a lot of, that was one of those concerts they told me that all the guys wanted to come to. Usually it's the women that make the decisions. We are in our 5th year of the Sandy Arts Show that we have each year up at the Senior Center. Currently we're will perform this summer Thoroughly Modern Millie at the amphitheater. We're currently showing at the Chamber Theater, which is council chambers, 4 weddings and an Elvis. So there's tickets available this coming weekend, I believe. And then we'll do at Mount Jordan Middle School, Disney's Little Mermaid. Just as an aside, I'm not sure if you're really aware of this, but recently the ownership of Real changed hands. Dave Checketts has been bought out by a partner who's a local guy who's really putting the effort and money into the stadium and into the team, and also into the development of the land around the stadium. So we've been in discussions with possible development around the stadium, which is something that we had hoped for in years past. But it's great to have a local owner who has substantial resources, and we see that as a huge success for our residents and all the residents of the county and the state. Thank you very much for that update. I guess there's a couple things I would say. You know, all of this is possible for really 2 things, 3 maybe. I've got a great staff. The council and I very, very much appreciate the leadership that each of our department heads and their assistants give to the community. These are dedicated, caring people who are part of our community and want to make it a better place. On top of that, we have the greatest employees in the city. Throughout the years, we've had some tough times in the last 4 or 5 years. No raises, very tiny raises, increase in health insurance. They've hung with us. Not only just hung with us, their attitudes have been phenomenal. And in our latest Jan Jones survey, our employees ranked the highest they've ever ranked. And that just tells you, you can go through hard times, but with good people, good things happen. And then, again, it comes back to all of you, what makes it a great place, and what makes it successful.